Hello everyone, welcome to the penultimate part to the first half of phase 2 of my Cascadia transit expansion project, where I am adding comprehensive transit networks to the entire Pacific Northwest. And the first half of phase 2 is dedicated to the entire Puget Sound region. And that means it is the epilogue where we cover the last of our transit lines before we officially go and give you the in-depth, deep dive, detailed overview and look at the entire network. So you can see the way that they all intersect and interconnect. And basically you get a more macroscopic, almost street level look at exactly how these would allow you to get around the entire metropolitan area. Okay, this is literally the best they can do in terms of removing as many of the metro and regional rail lines as they could, in this case just metro lines, of the network before you wouldn't be able to see the 3 options of the regional rail lines that we're covering in this episode and how they interact with other lines. Quite literally, it's almost all, I'd say it's about 60% of all the metro lines I have lined up, all directly interact with the 3 possible alignments or routes, if you will. 3 different options you have for what we're covering today, which is the last regional rail line. Well, this is the thing I wanted to emphasize anyway. So, this has changed a fucking hell of a lot. And this was, the North Bend Seattle line was actually in the first video, which, by the way, I should preface this with this, because I completely forgot about this myself. I finally made dedicated, individualized playlists in this series. So you have the full series playlist, the Cascadia Transit Expansion Project's official playlist, but you have sub-playlists, basically, subcategories of it, if you will. So, if you want to actually go and get a much more simplified and, like, specific niche level view of certain lines and stuff like that, you now can without having to try to figure out and sift through a bunch of extra videos and stuff that you might not want necessarily to do that with, because I know it's a lot of content to go through, even though you will miss out on a lot of pivotal and crucial details. Anyway, the reason why I mention this is because we have the Newport Norwood Village now east platform or east station, and then we have the Newport Norwood Village west station or platform, because obviously this is the west over here along the East Lake Regional line, and this one, which is the Newport Norwood Village line, which is one of the 3 options we're covering in today's video. And I decided, despite the fact that these each are footpaths for foot/bike paths for people to be able to connect and easily access from different neighborhoods or different areas, segregated by or separated by the freeways and everything else, and parking lots and stupid corporate complexes, you now have direct accessibility into not only the stations, but also therefore through the stations and directly into these other pathways and systems. But yeah, and so despite the fact that that's the case, my point is that I added this as an actual station piece, because why not just merge the 2 stations? So your central platform is, of course, your North Bend Seattle Metro platform. And then, of course, you have your east platform for the regional, and then you have your west platform for the regional. As you can see, I've evolved my thinking and my mindset on how big stations probably should be, at least just for my own sanity and visualizations of importance in terms of like how much capacity, how frequent, and how high speed, basically how express the train's going to be, so that this way the more like properly regional or intercity the train is, the more you're going to want a bigger station. So that's, of course, because you're also going to have longer and taller trains, because if you're smart, which my whole idea is being utopian with some realism, but a slight edge to utopianism. What I would envision it as in a perfect world is that it also has something like Bombardier dual stocks or some other kind of bi-level cars automatically catered to, and thus hopefully has off the bat that they use with these trains. But anyway, so this whole complex has changed a lot. So now it's technically a 2-part, 3-platform station. It's sectioned, obviously, east and west, as you can tell. And you have, though, you still have your direct connectivity that you're using the pre-existing path networks along with new ones, so that way you can connect to different neighborhoods and different areas throughout here, so that way everybody has accessibility into the network. And then there's no excuses not to take the rapid transit, comprehensive rapid transit. Let's start off with option 1, of course. Here is the East Ender station. Again, as you can tell, I very much, as I said before, have evolved in my station sizing. Before, I just didn't really care, and then slowly over time, I've started to put more and more time and dedication and effort into even customizing my stations, even though before I did not do that at all. So Emnuclaw is kind of a hub, basically, a pseudo hub, because we're going to have all 3 of the options start at the south end in Emnuclaw. So this is option 1. So you have the station over here, so they're directly easy to walk or run to. So you go up from Emnuclaw here, and you go norte, up through the little pass here, across the Rivera, past all this new development and sprawl, evil bastards, and eventually end up at your first station, which is right here. And this is actually the Maple Summit station. Right, I had to rename it to Maple Summit because this is literally right here on Google Maps. It says Summit, which is a neighborhood or a district in Maple Valley. Maple Valley is listed right here on Google Maps, which would indicate that supposedly their downtown is considered to be here, or basically their city hall is. And it's the Des Moines Maple Valley Metro. That's what it is. So you can go from Des Moines, which also has a lot of intermodality with other lines. Again, I highly recommend you check out the playlist. And yeah, so it gets you east-west across the area easily, and so it gives you good interoptionality between each station. So as you can see, we're going to connect up into this plaza type area, and we're also going to connect up on each corner as well, while still trying to leave as much open space as possible. Okay, so there you go. Maple Summit. Well, the next station is the actual Maple Valley station. Now, this one is a weird fucker because Maple Valley, if 2 of the 3 options were selected. Yeah, it's a dash point / Federal Way Snoqualmie Metro, which is a 35.5-mile long, yes indeed, metro line. And therefore, if say you had 2 of them selected, boom and boom, you'd have a third station or a middle station platform right here, and they'd all connect this way. So you have connections to this side of this road, you have connections down here, of course, into this parking lot in this area. You'd have a connection over here in this parking lot as well from here. And of course, you'd have interconnectivity between each of the platforms in 2 different spots at least. And therefore, it's a pretty decent station, if you ask me. Elliott Maplewood Station, right. So originally the Maple Summit station, I had called it Maplewood. And I don't know how I did that, because the only term of Maplewood anywhere in the area is right here, actually. So don't ask me how the fuck that works. I don't know how the hell I screwed that up. And then therefore my idea is that you connect up into other trail systems in the area. So you build these like proper trails. One, maybe continue this one right here. You continue it down through the hill and connect up on this side, and maybe connect up over here as well. And also obviously have your connection on this end, have another set of paths, and say a path goes down like through here, another path goes up through here, connecting to this hood like right here, because it looks like there's an open spot for that. Yep. So you go down like this, we follow your contours, and then connect up via the park area there, pork, if you will. Do this, connect up into that end, and then, well, bam, have your connection directly onto the road here. Or you could do this, boom, and then connect up there. But basically just start making a comprehensive pathing network, so that way people have the ability to do that, and thus you do the same on this side as well. Since there's a big pork here, you take that opportunity to then add some parking capacity, unfortunately, probably a bus stop or 2, like a regional bus route, and somehow connect it across the river, and eventually get up this hill and connect it up into here. that was my idea. And then you'd have another path that would be able to go up and then like connect up into this hood, this end of it somehow over here. Because that way you're connecting up multiple areas at once, and therefore it gives the walkability and bikeability options as well, because again, you want to be as intermodal and also as optional as possible for everybody in every mode. That was a disaster. And then it would end in the Renton station, the central Renton station right here. Ugh. Which I don't know exactly, probably Renton Village. It looks like it's probably what I call it, or Sunset Boulevard. No, Sunset Boulevard and 3rd is what I called it, because it's a Metro line station, except now it's also going to be shared with the regional. So again, option 1, 26 miles, but again, you'd only have 5 stations in 26 miles, which is technically fine. It's doable, it's fine, it's still useful, and in fact, it's extremely express. But then again, you could potentially get a lot more use and a lot more ridership out of it if you did add more lines, or sorry, more stops. And therefore, you could theoretically even add a second stop up here in the north of Emnuclaw, that you probably wouldn't do that quite yet. There's a little community up here, so you probably could put one right here. That wouldn't be a bad idea. There's a bit of development over here. So yeah, I mean, again, giving them the option to be able to come into here like this instead. Boom, Emnuclaw, boom, station here. This new development is supposed to go on here, as you can tell, so maybe put one there. You have the next one up in here somewhere, probably right here. Somewhere kind of shoot the gap in the middle, maybe put a footpath in that connects through this park, connects over into these roads, so that way, again, people have multiple options. You'd have another path maybe that goes down like this, and eventually connects down into this development. You get the idea. So that way you have another stop in this vicinity. In fact, they're developing this, you can tell, so. You'd have another station here, obviously, somewhere in this vicinity, probably here, because that way everybody on the south end has a better access point. Then you have the station, and then because they're plenty far apart already, you can just go into this station normally, and then that way you're not having too many stations. You're adding, what is that, 3 more stations? So you'd have, instead of 5, you'd have 8 stations for 26 miles, and that's a little better. And there's more potential ridership in that. Well, let me try this again, because apparently somehow option 3 ended up option 2, and option 2 ended up option 3, and it's just very confusing. The second option is a 16.5-mile line all the way to Painfield in Everett. This is the longest of the options. So, as usual, this one is going to start here at Emnuclaw West Station. Then we will go north. We will circumvent our way and snake our way west into the center greenfield routing of town through the golf course, because fuck golf courses. They deserve to die and never come to exist again. Maple Valley, middle platform. If this line is chosen, it's going to continue northwest along the clearly drinking water reservoir. And why is now this station missing? Third station is Fairwood Station, which is a combination of 2 different neighborhood names. I think it might actually just be the name of the neighborhood. I actually made these recently, and I've already forgotten. And then there's this perfect little section, prime for development. And so I'm like, okay, one of my favorite things to do these days with these stations is when there's a perfect spot like that alongside of a station, you fucking purchase it, you annex it into the station property, and then what you do is you merge with the station, mixed use, medium density development. In this case, this would definitely be medium density. Mixed use, medium density development that's also simultaneously part of the station. Or, again, there's a lot of other great opportunities for it that are great uses. You could also make a little transfer / mini TC, transfer station. You could make a little community space, plus proper station platform, like something out of Europe. I mean, there's a lot of different great uses for it, so why not do that? Then you go into a transfer track, or a transition track, if you will, and then of course go from there into a tunnel because of the ridge line, the road, the river, and then eventually we end up in Whitman Court Station right here, and the Jimi Hendrix Memorial is somewhere over here. So you'd be able to be walking distance to see a pretty damn big tourist draw. And then next day to that, and of course, yeah, you have you're really close to the Renton stations and everything and network. And then we head norte, and we end up coming through here, and eventually going all the way up. We skip all the way to basically this state route and Newport / Norwood Village East Station. And of course, I already gave you the preamble on this station, so I do not need to go any further into the details of why this mess looks like it does. Right, I was gonna say, I don't know what happened here, but it's because I removed the Seattle North Bend Metro line from visibility. So that's what's happened there. And then we go north, and I understand that there's a lot of density and business stuff here. So you'd almost want to have another station here, but they're so close together that it just doesn't make sense. Honestly, in my head, I'm like, make footpaths where you have one that goes through here and does this, and boom, connects into this neighborhood and this road, connects down to the school, and connects down into this neighborhood over here and this neighborhood down here. And then obviously a path would continue through here or even through here, since there's a bunch of trees here. That actually be a really smart idea. Boom, do this. And then have obviously a point that connects up to this road. And then you have another one. Basically, we go all the way up to, say, here. And then probably have a split point like right here, looks like would be a perfect spot. That way you can connect into this road and these parts of the neighborhood. And eventually you're going to try to make it all the way over here to this area. What you would do then is you'd also have a path on the north side. So this area would then break into another path system. And you would try to have a path that would be as straightforward and natural to go through and connect up into here. Maybe follow along this road or go up, like connect here, but also go up here, follow along near this road, boom, connect into these areas, and you'd have a lot of decent density apartments. You get the idea. Also, I would figure there's probably some decent bus networking through here, because Sound Transit and King County Transit both are, or King County Metro technically, are really freaking good at doing BRT. And then you'd be able to have your next stop. And I wanted to kind of have it down here near the other Bell Red station here. And the station's up in here. Because there's a station here I put here. There's a light rail station right here. And then there's obviously this one. But I decided it would be better on the other side of the road long term. So this is the gap between stations. As much as it may not seem like it makes a lot of sense, I think it does. Again, there's got to be decent, at least decent transit in here. And the idea in my head as well is I think if you have this kind of comprehensive, even better transit network, there's all the more reason why people will be more motivated and more heavy to put pressure on Sound Transit and King County Metro to actually implement, and whoever else. So then you have better connectivity. I am a mess tonight. They have better connectivity throughout the whole area. Anyway. And then this is also right next door again, and then pretty much direct connectivity and walking footpath wise through the Microsoft complex, bump to this footbridge into the other half, and obviously to the light rail stations and to this. Yeah, it's a metro line. This is the Seattle Duval line, I think. Yeah, that's the Seattle Duval line. So yeah. And anyway, then you go north, and I decided I would put this one here, even though I kind of like the idea of one here as well. See, this is the difficulty in this area and this kind of alignment, is that you absolutely, because of these two lines, you absolutely do need, I think it's a requirement. It's 100% like you have to have that. You cannot it's non-negotiable to have one of the major stations here along this line. But then that does pretty much guarantee you cannot have a stop here. It just doesn't make any sense. Light rail, maybe, but it's also a really long line, so it's not going to work. So then how about here? And yeah, it's pretty close to the other lines, not just mine, but theirs. But then again, it's also directly across the street from this one and a light rail station here as well. And there's a bunch of footpaths through here and footbridges. So it's still well interconnected. Why the hell not? And then at that point, you not only have this metro line that goes up into central Redmond, you also have the light rail that does the same and actually goes right here even, not just here, but here. So yeah, and then you have this line that goes east-west, and you have a station here. Ultimately, I thought, I can't exactly not have a station outside of West Redmond, so I'm going to put one in West Redmond, and that means I got to skip a station here, which I really did want, but it's too close together. It's not really justifiable. And then I skipped Woodinville, even though, again, I have multiple lines kind of going through the Bothell-Woodinville region, and Woodinville might have a good, like, walkability connectivity between the station, which is about here, and then here, and even a station down here that exists on another line. So, I mean, like, you could argue that, but I wanted to make sure I got one in Bothell. So, therefore, you have the now shared Bothell station with another line. Bothell station is here, and therefore 2 lines share that one, just like 2 lines share this one, and 2 lines, I believe, share the Woodinville station over here. It's pretty well interconnected in that region. And actually, this is where I decided I'd have the direct crossover with this line. This was like a compromise location, because I didn't necessarily want to skip this, but I also wanted to have one kind of up here. But then, I mean, they have the swamp and the green space and everything, and there's a little bit of development happening, but it doesn't really make sense. And then here, same kind of thing and problem. And then this would be fun. Then it's too close to these stops. Therefore, that pretty much forces you to have to be at the Canyonville. Canyon Park, not Canyonville. I knew that wasn't quite right. But this one would connect up here as well. And there's actually a bus stop on this on-ramp because logic, apparently. I don't fucking know. What the fuck is wrong with these people? I don't understand. Why would you do that? It's just stupid. I've already ranted about the location of this fucking park and ride and bus, transit center. It's, again, incredibly fucking stupid. Like, look at this shit. What kind of fucking stupidity is this? It's moronic at best, and a fucking insult at worst. It's so stupid. But anyway, because it exists, and it's a transit center, there it goes. So, more line interconnectivity. Plus, I think there's some Microsoft buildings and stuff up here. I think some of this is Microsoft, so fuck it. Why not? Okay. So then the next stop, as we said, we were to negotiate with ourselves in these stops, and I said, fuck it. We got to go all the way north, skip here, and go to here. Because this is also, I think this interacts with another station on the South Lake Union Everett Metro line. So that's a direct interaction with another line that gets you even further throughout and afield the region. So again, just makes a lot of sense. So that's the 4 points one. And of course, the 2 blocks are for mixed-use redevelopment implemented and built directly into, of course, the station. And last but not least, Payne Field, because Payne Field definitely should have a proper transit and like metro system, at least, if not regional rail station and connection. Why? Because they restarted commercial flights, I believe in 2022. It was. I'm pretty sure it was 2022. It might have been 2023. I'm pretty confident it was 2022 is when they restarted commercial services. And that was by actually the demands of the residents in the region. So there you go. So conflagrations, you don't have just here, you also have here. And the final option tree, which connects you, of course, west Emnuclaw Station, or Emnuclaw West, technically, goes up True here, and eventually goes and hits up, of course, Maple Summit Station. Well, bam. Then the Maple Valley Station, of course. Then the Elliott Maplewood Station. So the next one is, of course, the Elliott Maplewood Station right here. Again, combination of names, as you may expect. Already talked about the pathing, right? So we don't have to touch on that again. I already covered that. And then we got, of course, Renton Sunset Boulevard. Let me quickly get this. If this regional rail alignment is selected, then this would likely be the shared station footprint with the Renton Graham Metro. The property on the northwest corner would be taken over by the line and redeveloped into a medium density mixed use building built into the station. Except, now that I think about it, there's no reason why you couldn't make it a high density. The bottom end of high density, but you could do it. Yeah, the airport's right here, but then again, you're well out of the flight paths. In fact, you're in such a bad angle for flight paths. There's literally, the FAA and Boeing could not possibly bitch about that. There's no way. They're not creating fucking fighter jets. And this isn't a co-military airport. Therefore, they cannot complain. So, yes, high density works. And if fucking Bucktooth Loserton, Oregon is going to start finally defying Washington County's ordinance, not even quite downtown, but very close to downtown. We're going to have a 120-foot building that we're going to have you build, developers build. So 10 to 12 story building, which would be the first proper, like, actual livable and workable building in the entire, so people-oriented building in the entire city. Renton has no excuse not to do that, especially in downtown. So actually, medium density can go out the window. How about high density? There's no reason not to. If we own the fucking line and we own thus this property, let's fucking do it. It's right next to the fucking freeway too, and a state route. Fuck it. Change that to, pretend this is high density. That's what we're doing. Anyway, so there you go. Boom. And then, of course, oh yeah, it transferred into a tunnel, by the way. And then, of course, we go back into a viaduct as soon as we can. And the next station is going to be Rainier Beach, Rainier Beach, which is all the way up here. So Rainier Beach is the next station, which is, you know, quite a distance between. But again, for a regional rail line, especially for how close each of these other stations have been, makes a lot of sense to make up a lot of time. So you skip everybody else in between. And plus, you already have this light rail line going through here. It does eventually go west, but, you know, whatever. And then eventually, you also have the sounder line, so there's no reason not to. And I know you definitely have good, decent bus lines through here, so fuck yourself. You get this instead as your next station. Next one is Judkins Park Atlantic. And again, because of the light rail alignment going up through here, there is definitely bus lines. There's no reason to have a stop anywhere but here, especially in terms of balance of stations. So basically what I did is I altered this original station along this alignment, which also actually has a Bellevue alignment, the Seattle North Bend line. So now they share a station here. And I believe there is a light rail station. Oh no, it's literally right here. Boom. For the extension to Redmond. So yeah, you have your direct interconnectivity to those three different modes, and also this one right here, the one that's going south along this alignment. It comes out through here actually. So again, it's walkable to that point. We also have our line, the North Bend Metro line, North Bend Seattle Metro line goes up and along this alignment through the Swedish Medical Center and all that stuff, all the way to here, as you can see this station. So again, it's really good interconnectivity throughout the region. The next station would be MDM Station, Madison Denny Miller, because it's a mix of the two main big streets at the apex of the station, and of course, Miller District / Hood, so neighborhood. The next one would be the University Station of University Loop light rail, or streetcar, as it were. We have the therefore altered station footprint, so that way it takes up even more space, because also the light rail station is there as well. Sound Transit Link light rail system. They have a university accessible line, so then you have those three all sharing a station, and obviously buses would probably share it as well. So, well, bam, now you have it. And plus, being that big is essential, and not just you're in the heart of the actual campus, but you also have the main fucking event centers all right here. So everybody's going to be using it to get there from across the fucking region. So naturally, you need a really fucking big footprint. And I kind of wanted to have a station here because, again, good interactivity. But then again, you just fucking take a quick hike across the bridge and you're already there. And then, of course, there's also a station right here. Boom. For this whole mall complex, basically, for the thing. Although they are really developing it pretty nicely in the core of it, at least. So, you know, I decided that this is the better obvious spot than either of those two spots. So you have to skip both of those. Plus, again, another really quick jaunt. You got to go north all the way up into our final station, which of course is the Lake City Station. And of course, just as a preface, Lake City Station, if this regional rail alignment is chosen, the two blobs on the north end would be owned by the line and redeveloped into, wait for it, mixed use. Likely 8 to 12 stories. But again, this was before I was reading about Beaverton. If we can have, and are going to start to have developed, you know, 8 to 12, 13, 14 story buildings in Beaverton, there's no excuse for places like these to not go actually base level high density and go to like 15, 20 stories. And so those are your 3 options. So as your 3 options and choices, let me know what your thoughts and your choice would be in the comments below. Not only is it really helpful in a lot of different ways, including feeding the algorithm, it also is really helpful to let me know, especially if you're up and from the area or you frequent the area, what one would be the most useful, what one would be the most liked, what one would be the one that you would put your backing and support into the most. And especially if you consider the actual full network proposal that I have in concept, which again, if you don't want to watch the whole freaking playlist and get the details for why I chose the station locations and the routes I did, at the very least, you can go and check out the short, quick overview of the entire system and network for the sound region. And after this video, the last one for the sound region is going to be, of course, the one that's the in-depth and detailed and this pretty long form video, giving you a more like street level macroscopic look at the entire network and how it works and functions with each other, and even the pre-existing Sound Transit, King County Metro, Pierce Transit, and all the other systems. My neighbors, everyone. You probably actually didn't quite hear that, but you feel like you should. But I mean, the noise suppression OBS is weirdly effective. Sometimes a little too much. But yeah. Anyway, there's that. So there you go. Let me know what you think in the comments. This looks like some sort of a weird, like, deformed ganglia of some sort attached to your intestines, I feel like. That's what the shape is. It's super weird looking. And I hope to see you in that next video, whatever it may be. And at the very least, if you're into the series and these concepts, this. Okay. Like I said, I'm going to shut the fuck up. I'll see you later, and goodbye. It's 1:22 fucking a.m. Yeah. Yep. I regret. I do have some regrets. Fuck you.
You.